Hello everyone, my name is Marc from JazzGuitarLessons.net and welcome to this brand new series, the Jazz Guitar Toolbox. This series is addressed to players that are perhaps familiar or really well versed in blues and rock guitar, but that are new to all the concepts in the world of jazz. So the goal of this series really is to lower the barrier of entry into the world of jazz by providing skills that are really things that every jazz guitarist should know. In this first lesson, we will cover the major scale. So first I will show you how to play it, how to better efficiently practice it for jazz applications, and in the later part we'll look at theory. Now the major scale is of course the scale by far that you will use the most in jazz, so it's only natural that we get started by learning the major scale. So let's get to the materials. First up, what we need is a couple of really nice movable fingerings for the scale position. So in this video, we'll look at the C major scale and we'll look at it from the root on the 6th string, your E string, your bottom string, and then the root on the 5th string. So here's how the 6th string root works. Now let's look at the second scale fingering, which takes place on your 5th string. Of course, there are many more other fingerings to the major scale than these two that we looked at, but to get you started in jazz, and if you're completely new to this, those will go a really long way and you really can get started improvising, learning tunes, and etc. Alright, now that you've learned these shapes and you know where the notes are on your fretboard, it's time to get to practice them effectively. And how do you do this? Well, I've laid it out step by step for you. We have 4 different steps that you can practice. And of course, you can find this in the PDF on the blog. And you can tailor this according to how much time you have in your practice. So let's see how we'll be doing this. The first way in which I recommend you practice the scales is by using long tones. So we'll use our friend here, the metronome, and I will put it pretty slowly at 40 BPM, so that's 40 beats per minute. This is pretty slow, and you simply play one note for each click. So let's see how it sounds. You see that this forces you to focus on the sound you're producing and also on your left hand, on your fingering hand technique to make sure you're really accurate. Also, you can get bonus points by naming the notes as you go along the scale. So you would do something like C, D, E, F. So it will help you memorize the scale. The second way in which you can practice memorizing the scale and really making it effective for jazz guitar is by practicing it in 8 notes. So I will set up my metronome here between say 60 and 100 beats per minute, and I will practice 8 notes. So let me start this here. The beat is actually 72, and 8 notes sound like this. 3 and 4, A. Ensure you come back down, everything you practice. Now you've heard the feeling of these 8 notes are actually that I'm playing pretty straight, almost like classical, so there's straight 8 notes. You could also practice your swing a little bit to make it more shuffle. 1, to 2, to 3, to 4, to... The third way in which you can practice your major scale here is by playing thirds. This is certainly something you've heard, and I will demonstrate. So instead of playing the scale sequentially, you will play the first note and the third note. C, E, and then D, F, E, G, F, A. I will just run the scale slowly like this. Be careful, this is going to be hard on your technique on you know, really being synchronized with both hands. So like this. And finally, the fourth step in practicing your major scale for jazz guitar is to begin improvising with that scale shape that you've memorized. So you've practiced them in long tones, you've practiced them in 8 notes with your metronome, then you've practiced them straight and swing, and lastly, you've practiced a bit of your thirds. Now, it's the time to get going, set your metronome on a nice 2 and 4 feel, and see what you can come up with. Number one tip is attempt to hear in your head out loud what you're about to improvise, or even better, sing it with your voice, which I'm renowned for doing on YouTube, but I will not attempt to do right now, okay? So here's a 2 and 4 shuffle. That's on 60 BPM. So my beat is like this. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. A 2, 3. Of course, at first you're going to learn a scale position, 6th string, 5th string, and then you're going to practice these steps that I just recommended to you in the key of C major. But as you progress further in jazz guitar, you will not play all your jazz tunes in the key of C, so I recommend you start playing in different keys when you feel comfortable. I will display this on the screen here, and here's the order that is recommended for you to go through, and you could do something like a key per day, so it would take you actually 12 days, because there's 12 keys, right? 12 days to go through the entire thing, so about 2 weeks. So your first key is C, then you will move on to G, and then you will go to D major, and A major, and E major, and B major, and F sharp major, and then C sharp major or D flat major, and A flat major, E flat major, B flat major, and F major. So notice, if you're familiar with this, we went through the cycle of fourths. All right, let's dig into the theory a little bit. So I've always believed in hands-on first, and then getting to the theory of things after you've done it in real life. So here's the theory of the major scale. It's really easy to think of it in whole steps and half steps. So if you look at the way to construct it from a note, it can be any note. Let's pick C. You will have your first note, and then you will have a whole step, then a whole step, then a half. So whole, half. And then you will have whole, half. That's the formula. WWH, WWWH. Of course, 1 fret on the guitar is a half step, and 2 frets is a whole step. That's why between C and D, we have a whole step, and that's 2 frets distance. Now, what I recommend you do is understand how you can build your major scale starting from different notes. So not just a C note, but pick any note you want and write out the notes of the scale. You can do it. It's pretty simple, so long as you obey this formula of looking at whole, half, whole, half. I have provided you with an answer key on the blog post with all the different major scales from the 12 starting points, but I recommend you do the math first on paper and then go and check your answers on the blog. All right, guys, that's it for this major scale lesson. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe here and hit the little bell to get your notifications. And I will see you in the next video lesson. And I will see you on the website, jazzguitarlessons.net. Improve your jazz guitar playing with a real teacher. See you there.